right, so I don't know how many times I've done this, but maybe I'll get through it this time. Welcome to Looking for Moms, a Mothership actual play. The stars are dead gods. A bit of content warning before you continue. Mothership is a sci-fi horror game for mature audiences. It contains violence, foul language, some sexual content, potential drug use, and depictions of mental stress, trauma, and panic that may not be suited for all audiences. You should consider that content before continuing. And I invite you to check out the other great content from the GMs of Looking for Mom on our Discord server. GM Andrew has a great Humberwood campaign and is starting a Replicant Rebellion Blade Runner campaign. GM Beginner has a slew of videos of his Pirate Board campaign. GM Sid runs a fantastic Brindlewood Bay campaign and is starting a Riley Watch short. GM Maia runs a superb Pinehurst Academy using the City of Mist rules and a new Electric States podcast. Hopefully I'll see you there. But let's get started with Mothership, The Stars Are Dead Gods. I'm going to do a small recap shortly. I did some of it for everyone and kind of bring Oni up a little bit up to speed. So the captains all originally, Captains Ace, Captain Harm, Captain Air Collins, and Captain Max requisitioned the ship called the Bishop's Gambit, whose ship AI is called Mr. Tim. Slightly off kilter, they've figured out. Slightly different than a normal ship's AI with a monotone voice. Actually wanted Max to teach him humor and joking. And they decided that they're going to make a run of freedom because they finally have this ship, which is fairly unknown. And they escaped the albino gorilla and the bleeder's plague before lockdown and hyperspace jump. Because there was only 2 hyperspace destinations for jobs that the other captain was going to pursue, they decided to pick this job from Nakatomi Corporation and investigate an alien site and recover artifacts so they can get money to repair the Bishop's Gambit, which is in terrible shape. I'll show up pictures of the Bishop Gambit. It's a Valcor freighter. It only additional thing it has is a hidden cargo hold, and it has multiple difficulties and problems with its mechanical nature, its engines, its habitation units, all sorts of things are wrong with it. It's some of the airlock doors are askew on the hinge, and it's actually missing some airlock doors, which the company knows. And Max actually decommissioned himself or shut himself down trying to fix one of the electrical problems in the past. And so they went to Tau Sigma 7 and into the depths of this dead planet to recover these artifacts, where they found these octopus-like aliens and these vats of human remains in this kind of red liquid. They eventually found the sepulcher of these artifacts and found these 3 artifacts, Harm and Max picks up this rod and he hears the voice of the mother. At this point, the party is being attacked by aliens up above him while he's down in this small area with Harm, and he decides that in order to get the company out free, he allows Mother to join with him in a mental sense because she wants to be carried off this planet, this dead planet that she's been stuck on, and she wants to go out back into space. So Max makes a deal to carry her off within himself, and in the process can control the aliens so that the company can escape. During that period of time, Ace, realizing that things are going south, tries to save the crew because he's not aware of Max's agreement with Mother, bargain with Mother, and he makes all the aliens attack him essentially, and acts as a link. And so as Max is rising out of the sepulcher, the Marine Harm is killed by the aliens just before Max takes control of them. and they come slithering across the floor, wrapping their tentacles around him as he's now a parent, or one of them. They leave the surface of Tau Sigma 7 with the body of Max and one alien, because the other alien would not leave. And they decide they're going to take the shortest jump to try to contact the Nakatomi company to offload the artifacts, really get paid, and so they can try to make shift. So they're going to go to this green sleeve communication buoy. En route, the company has this cryo dream. Eric Collins, the Marine Harm, and actually Dr. Rizal are all in cryo, and they have this cryo dream where they relive an event in the ship's past. Dr. Rizal, they didn't realize he was in cryo because they hadn't really done that check. And there's a number of bodies in cryo, and he relives this event. They all relive this event without really knowing each other were there with them, because they all relive it from one point of view of one of the characters in that moment in the past, Captain Alexandria, her daughter, Jessica Elizabeth, and this huge Marine called Rocco, as they're attacked by a hyperspace Gordian worm. After that hyperspace dream ends, they are emergently woken and out of cryo by Mr. Tim, because Eric Collins is having some reservations about the android Max bringing this alien on board. And he tells Mr. Tim, if things go south or if something happens, wake us up. Because he's lost confidence a little bit in Max, the android Max. And they all get woken up because there's bodies, life forms, even though they're traveling through hyperspace, suddenly there's life forms in the main hold. What happens is they meet hyperspace raiders who are part of the Brotherhood of the Void, and they're asked to join the Brotherhood of the Void to cast off their false lives that have been implanted in their brains by the machine of their other existence. The company of captains decide to buy themselves time and then ask Mr. Tim to eject them forcibly from hyperspace in an emergent manner, which is very dangerous. And they each go find places to hide from the hyperspace raiders as the countdown of that ejection from hyperspace occurs. But the main hyperspace raider finds Dr. Rizal and teleports into this small triangle or space that he's hiding in, and makes him aware that they are now enemies of the Brotherhood. And whenever they enter hyperspace, they could consider themselves hunted. They emergently exit hyperspace, and the ship nearly shakes itself to pieces because they're ejecting from hyperspace uncontrollably. And each of them are in these 3 hiding spaces on the Bishop's Gambit, and that's where we left it last time. Anyone have any additions or questions? So we're going to do a little stress relief because we haven't really done that a bit. Each of you are in, except for Oni, each of you are in these small spaces. Dr. Rizal's in the aft engineering space, this small triangular room with a little hatch, and Captain Harm, the Marine, is in a small breakout locker by the galley. A breakout locker is where you put food in because you don't want to keep trugging back and forth across the whole ship. So you're putting food, a couple weeks of food, in the breakout locker that's right next to the galley. And he's in the breakout galley. And Eric Collins is probably in a fan room of some nature in machinery. And before the Bishop's Gambit leaves hyperspace, you are sitting there trying to hide from the hyperspace raiders, trying to recover some sense of balance. Captain Harm is in breakout locker, and he looks around, and there's not much in there. There's actually a couple cartons of cigarettes and a few flasks that look like have brown liquid. Eric Collins is in this fan room, and there's not much there, but there's some pile of books. There's like a yoga manual and some other stuff, like someone was working out in this bigger fan room that's kind of square. And we're going to do a little stress relief mechanic. So to try to relieve stress, because you guys got a bit of stress. And I think you probably took a little bit more stress during the dream sequence that you didn't take off your sheets. Because if I leave that stress on there now, you're all going to be in a lot of trouble. So Captain Harm, you're in this breakout locker by the galley, and you're waiting for it to eject from hyperspace. You know the hyperspace raiders are trying to find you. You each find these separate kind of fan rooms to hide from them. And you see this pile of cigarettes and some flasks of what looks like alcohol. Stress can be resolved any particular way. If you use something specific like that, you may get a bonus on your roll, but you don't have to. If you're a player that doesn't want to deal with alcohol, smoking, you could develop your character's own style of relieving stress. It could be yoga, it could be meditation, it could be singing, it could be whatever. And that's kind of what we're doing at present. So Captain Harm, you're taking a deep breath, trying to hide from these hyperspace raiders. You're all jangly. Your stress is, near the top of what any Marine would be. How does Captain Harm relieve some of the stress as you're waiting to eject from hyperspace?
So Harm will kind of just take one of the flasks, kind of like sniff, like unscrew it, sniff it a little bit, and then like be like, maybe not, just screw it back on, and then just kind of like trace his fingers over the flask until like he calms down enough to like not be like at the same like just calm down enough, not that.
Yeah, when you pop the top off the flask, like there's no label on it. This looks like it's bathroom hooch, like someone like brewed it in the back of engineering in a tub, whatever can ferment. It's kind of brown. It smells like lighter fluid. It's probably pretty potent stuff. It's made from some sort of sugar, from some sort of thing, anything from vegetables to who knows what they put in it. It has this kind of tangy odor. And Harm, you screw that back on the top. Have you had trouble with alcohol before? That's why you take it off and put it back down, like you don't want to go then that place again?
To a degree, yes. Like not like probably not based off like what Rocco was doing from last session, but like still definitely down a road where he's like, nah, don't wanna
Okay.
don't wanna bring that back up.
So what you do and because you're holding to that sobriety, I'd have you roll your stress relief. Instead of rolling your lowest save, I'd have you roll body and at advantage, and we'll see what you roll. The one side of the die is how much stress you relieve. So the higher the one side, like if you roll a 17 or 27, the 7 is how many points you take off. So just roll a body save at advantage. $38. So as you're sitting there, you relieve 8 stress. So Harm can take 8 stress off his stress number. I'd probably give him 2 more stress for a total of 10, because you probably took some extra stress during the dream season. We didn't keep track of it very well. So I'd relieve, 10 stress as you're sitting in this hold, maybe still holding the bottle, but it's screwed on top, and center yourself before you exit hyperspace. Teamster Eric Collins, you're in this fan room. It looks like it's a workout space. Someone's used it. It's a bigger fan room than Dr. Rizal is, or Harm is in. They're in these tiny little fan rooms. Dr. Rizal's fan room is like a crouching one. It's this little triangular space. You're in like a bigger fan room, and it probably has a conduit that leads to other spaces in there, and you feel a little bit of a breeze because it's probably one of the main fan rooms that blows air throughout the ship for habitation. You're trying to settle yourself down and relieve some stress. What would Eric Collins do? How does he relieve stress when it gets to him, when he knows he's got to center himself?
I think you said there's some books. If there is like a either like a pile of workout books or just manuals, he would probably reach for something just technical, just to kind of like, work his brain in a way that feels natural and normal, and it's like he understands,
Yeah,
because it's just based.
there's probably some tech manuals there, but there's
Yeah,
also some tech manuals like yoga,
yeah,
how to work out. Like, does he go for the pure tech manuals like fan room engineering, that sort of stuff, or does he
yeah.
gravitate to
He
like a tech
definitely just goes over that, and he's kind of like, in his mind palace, he's filing away information. Okay, that'd be useful to fix the broken fan that he knows is in the aft, and like he's just kind of filing away. He has this long list of repairs in his head, and
Yeah.
now he's just kind of putting some pins in those.
So I would roll body at advantage as you delve deep into this minutia of tech manual and see if you succeed. There, so you rolled a 37, and so you would take 7 off your present stress, and probably an extra 2 for the dream sequence we didn't keep, so I would think you would decrease it by 9. And as you pour into that tech manual, I almost see like Eric Collins is completely like,
Yep.
making mental notes exactly, looking at electrical diagrams and, boxes with symbols and stuff on it that's completely archaic and a foreign language to most people, like runes on a piece of paper with all this drawing. What happens is the 3 of you exit hyperspace, and the ship literally feels like it's going to shake itself apart. What you notice first is that there's these little lights in those holes, those little spaces that you're hiding in. Just one little light on the bulkhead. And as soon as you exit hyperspace, those lights completely turn off. It goes pitch black. And the ship loses gravity. Eric Collins knows right away that the positronic coupler is out. He also knows that habitation is down. As the ship goes dark, gravity is lost, and there's no more airflow through his fan room. I'd like each of you to make a body save, and Eric Collins can make the body save at advantage because he's used to 0G.
Can I throw in my 0G skill?
Yep, you can roll your body save and what skill you think may apply. You just get to do it at Eric Collins. All right. Dr. Rizal, you're in this little triangular space just after the hyperspace reader blinks out and tells you you're enemy number 1. Whenever you enter hyperspace, the ship exits hyperspace. You're bounced around this small triangle area. The lights go out. Gravity is lost. It's pitch black. What happens to Dr. Rizal?
I think you'll catch him like kind of bouncing from the floor to the ceiling, and you'll kind of focus up on him in a pitch dark room with him, face down on the floor, staring intently at his paint can that had rolled off to the side, and kind of like a puddle of water where his face is like kind of at. You'll see him kind of like, crying from the incident that he had with the near death experience, and kind of wallowing in like misery. And he'll see kind of like a reflection of himself from like whatever light that he can have in the fan room.
Yeah, there's no light.
and you'll see.
It's completely pitch black. I see you
Oh.
hear your can rolling around, and
hmm
and now you don't have gravity. Like, you are floating a little bit. Maybe you like try to hunt down that can first in the pitch blackness, but you have no light in your triangular hold back in aft engineering. You know where the door
Okay.
is. It's pretty small. You barely fit in it yourself.
Yeah, I think he would try to get his bearings, being in 0G. If he knows where the door is, maybe try to right himself, either upside down or standing straight. With that kind of thing, with no light source, I don't think it'd make a difference. And then from that orientation, try to feel his way, because that paint can is important to him. I think
Right.
he would spend time trying to find it.
You latch one hand onto the circular door hatch opening, and your other hand grabs the paint can that you can hear rolling at your feet. Roll 1d4 and take that
Oh,
much damage.
actually, before I just start rolling around in the darkness, I just like, do I have a flashlight? And I looked at my items, and I do.
Yeah, maybe you do. You could pull it out.
Yeah.
Use a flashlight. All right. You see the opening to the hatch that you've closed in your paint can, and you pick them up. And what does Dr. Rizal do as the ship settles and you're kind of in this mid float in this small triangular space?
I think it's time to get out of here. So
Okay. You turn the wheel of the hatch. It's a small hatch. You really have to crawl through, and you turn the wheel of the hatch. You secure your paint can and open the hatch door. Eric Collins, you're in a bigger room, and perhaps it's just too abrupt for him. And what happens to Eric Collins? How does he miss that 0G shift from gravity?
His face is buried in the books, so he's wherever he ends up, it was startling enough that it, like, whatever stress he relieved, he feels it started to tick back up, because it's just another problem. The lights are off. He knows the coupler is fucked probably, and his list just got a whole lot longer that
One
he
more
was
thing
trying to
to
minimize. Yeah.
He would know that the 60 hertz hum that you can normally hear throughout the ship is this constant kind of humming in the ship because of airflow. It's completely quiet.
Yeah.
0G, completely quiet. He's in the dark. He takes 1d6 damage.
I'm rolling that up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, did you say I took damage too?
Yeah, you take 1d4. You had a better save than Eric Collins.
Yeah, so
I rolled for ace.
Normally, entering 0G and just anything 0G related, he's pretty graceful, but because of the sudden change, I'm sure he hit his head on like a grate or something. Maybe he's got like a gash that might need like a patch or two or something.
Yeah, I just see you careening around that space. It's so much bigger. Maybe there is workout equipment. He gets battered with weights and some other things, and slams into the side. He probably hits the side of the wheel that opens this bigger hatch, because his hatch was like a walk-in, and he really gets battered to heck in pitch black and 0G, and takes a lot of damage. Captain Harm, how is it that you take nothing?
Partially because I'm in a locker, but also just the way I'm positioned is kind of just like with my knees against the wall and like my back against the other, so like I'm kind of like bracing myself in between the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're probably sitting there with that bottle, with that flask in your hand, feet, against the side. You're pistoned in there, and you don't take anything. You just are solid as a Marine. It's pitch black, and all of you open up the holds and open the door, and you're immediately greeted with emergency lighting. Now, the Bishop's Gambit emergency lighting is janky like everything else. And so some lights are blinking, some are like stuttering, and there's this faint illumination of the walkways in the Bishop Gambit as the emergency lighting opens. Oni, you open your eyes and you're laying on the floor in cryo chamber or cryo bay. You don't really remember how you got there. You remember certain important things about your past, what led you out into space, but you have no idea where you are, how you got there. You can't remember crying into the cryopod. You know you're in a cryopod because one of your legs is like still inside, like you've been ditched out of the cryopod unexpectedly. The cryo coffin's lid is popped open and tipped forward, and you've just been ejected. Your one foot is kind of hanging in there. Your eyes blink, and you see that you're in a cryo bay. There's another body, looks like female, lying the next cryopod down. She's still partially connected, still has her combi tube in her mouth, which is a tube that goes in your lungs and your stomach, and still attached by like probably one of the straps was wrapped around her ankle, so she only made it halfway out of the cryo tube, and she's laying with her arms out, head on the ground. What do you do, Oni?
So this is not... I'm waking up and not knowing where the hell I am.
Yep.
What am I wearing?
Nothing. You go into cryo naked. So you're naked, she's naked. You know you're in cryo because not only did the cryo tube not eject the fluid, it just sloshed out all over you. It's all over the floor. You're slick with it. It's kind of like this gelatinous, slimy thing that keeps your temperature really low. You're probably a little bit cold yet because you haven't brought up your temperature. Roll a body save at disadvantage for cryo sickness.
So, my first roll for a save, I just click on my character sheet, body.
Yep, you click on body. You can add whatever skill you think may help in this manner. You can use skills in there if you
As
can
long
make
as I can justify it.
as long as you justify it. I don't think surgery or field medicine would necessarily work in botany.
But I may be able to center myself.
Right.
So I shall use my theology. So now I've clicked on theology. What do I press next?
You just pick the middle number. It's not advantage and it's not a disadvantage.
normal.
It's just, yeah, normal. Oh. So, Oni, a few things. This isn't simple cryo sickness. This is like the worst cryo sickness you've ever had. You remember cryo sickness vaguely, but this is like the granddaddy of cryo sickness. The nausea is overwhelming. Your head is just pounding. You feel terrible. Your vision is swimming around. You see these emergency lights in this broken down cryo bay, and this woman who's also been ejected by cryo with you. And so you have cryo sickness at the moment that's pretty bad, which affects all your future rolls. Just so you know, cryo sickness can be resolved with time or a stim pack. You're laying on the floor, probably discombobulated, dizzy, vertiginous, nauseous, maybe even throw up. Your eyesight eventually comes together. What do you do next, Oni?
Quick question out of game. Is Forge keeping track of this? Or do I need to?
No, it
down?
is. It should be keeping track of it. Or look at your sheet and be able to tell.
Okay.
Yep, it gave you an extra. You started with 2 stress, and now it's at 3 because you failed
see.
that row.
I saw that, but I don't know where it might say cryo sickness.
Oh, cryo sickness is just something you remember you have until you resolve it, and you're at disadvantage for all rolls.
Okay.
It takes a week to go away by itself, or it's abolished with a stim pack.
So next weekend I'll be fine.
Next week, or until you find a stim pack or someone gives you one.
Okay. I'm pounding head, disorientation, gooey stuff all over me, no clothes. I don't even know if I have small clothes on. Walk over. His first instinct is to help somebody. He's going over to check the vitals on the woman.
Okay. You bend down. She's got both legs in the cryo chamber still because she's still strapped down at the ankles, and she's splayed out on the ground with her arms up. Her eyes are wide open, and there's no vital signs at all. You also recognize a few things. She has no body hair, and as you touch her head, her hair sloughs off her skull, and Oni would realize that whoever she's been in cryo a really long time, decades, even longer. Her hair had started to grow and her follicles have shed them, and her hair comes off in sheets. And you get this terrible feeling, perhaps, as you look down at her and touch her, and her hair kind of sloughs off her skin. Her skin is translucent and almost plastic because she's been in cryo so long. Make me a sanity save.
Clicking on sanity. Going to try. Can I use theology again to
Yeah,
center myself?
Yeah, you could do that. Does he do anything when he centers himself, or is this just oh look at that?
He runs his hand over his own hair, over his own scalp. The funny thing is, in my character description, he is hairless as well. I don't know if you noticed that. So he's wondering what the hell is going on. So I was able to see the woman. The emergency lights are on in this bay.
You're in cryo bay. You see some lockers against the wall, little spin combinations, and you're in this cryo bay. It's missing its airlock door. The door has somehow been lost. There's this big gash in the side of the wall next to it where it's supposed to connect. You see open lockers, and what do you do?
The unit that I came out of, I'm sure it must have a locker assigned to it. So I don't think this would be my first time coming out of cryo. I'm going to make my way over to that locker.
Okay. You make your way over to that locker, and your hand moves out, and then you draw it back for some reason. You look right, and you step 3 lockers down, touch the combination and flick it, and it goes click, and you open the locker and are greeted with things you recognize, clothes that you haven't seen. Now they're a little moth-eaten, or not moth-eaten, they're brittle perhaps, and it strikes you as uncomfortable that you knew this combination to the locker all by yourself, and that you needed to move as if that locker had been yours in the past.
Okay, so he'll put on his orange robes. He's got a satchel, rubberized satchel. I imagine that's still in there. He'll flip it over. It's one of those ones that goes across your chest.
Okay.
He'll put on his chem-resistant boots, and
You're also in 0G. So
Ah,
I didn't mention it, but I forgot. But you're trying to have to hold on to things because you're and the woman probably rises off the ground. There's a GM fault.
there's probably a lot of goo floating around, goo droplets as well. Then I
It's a little bit tacky and sticky though, so once it
Yeah.
hits the surface, it sticks there.
So
What is his robes made out of?
kind of a heavy cotton,
Okay.
almost like sailcloth, almost that heavy.
Okay.
And they kind of have a crispness to them. You mentioned that they maybe have been in there for a while, but Oni knows that they were sort of fire resistant robes, so it
Okay.
had like a treatment on them which causes them to be kind of stiff.
So as you're in this weird situation dressing yourself, we will cut to the android Max. Max, you there?
Yeah, I am.
So, Max, when you came back to the ship with the alien, there was a conversation that was had about where to safely stow it or put it, because it's hungry and you know it's dangerous. And a decision was made to take it to the aft starboard hold, which is, back here on the map. You take this tentacled alien who's stark white with black rimmed suckers and these long serrated tops on its tentacles that's following you. I just need you to make a mother check.
That'd be Mother's voice, right?
Yeah. Okay. So it follows you to the aft hold. This is happening in the past. And you go down the stairwell to the aft hold and open the door, and it enters the aft hold. And then it promptly crawls up into like the right corner, shrinks itself down, and its tentacles start secreting this kind of viscous substance that it starts stringing around in this web-like manner. You feel Mother inside you and have this odd sense that what you're watching is beatific as it's preparing itself for hyperspace travel. And then you start seeing flashes of the mother's life. You see her hatching from an egg. You see her eating most of her brothers and sisters to survive the brood. You see her being rank and file alien. Then she's a brood mother, and then she's a destroyer of worlds, and then she's on Tau Sigma 7. And you watch Tau Sigma 7 go from this lush planet with bipedal organisms that think that the mother is God and her aliens are gods, and they build these temples to them. And the planet is now dead because it's destroyed by the avarice of something she couldn't stop, the avarice to grow and to reproduce by someone called the Seneschal, as you have these flashbacks. And I'd like you to make a sanity check at disadvantage. So, Max, the visions of Mother seem like they just happen really quickly, but they actually take a really long time. You almost hear Mr. Tim's voice in the background calling to you, Captain Max, and it gets lighter and lighter and further away, and you just become consumed by this vision of Mother's prior life. Eventually, Mr. Tim locks the hold, because you're not responsive as you're reliving Mother's life until the ship exits hyperspace. And as it exits hyperspace, loses gravity, shakes itself asunder, you're thrown out of those visions that Mother had taken control to some degree of your mental processing, and roll a body save as you're thrown about in 0G. Okay. Just roll a 1d6. Your body is 19. Whew, that is low. 6. So you take 6 damage. So the crew of the Bishop's Gambit, Dr. Rizal, Captain Harm, and Eric Collins crawl out of their hiding space from the hyperspace raiders, and emergency lights are flashing. In the cryo bay, unknowns to them, is Oni, who's putting on his found clothes, and in the aft hangar, Max is recovering from loss of 0G. The ship is completely dark except for the emergency lighting. It doesn't have gravity. What do you do? Eric Collins, what do you do next?
I go straight to the coupler.
Oh, in the back?
I know that, I guess we didn't really resolve what's going on with those with the raiders, technically.
Okay.
But this is more pressing. We're stranded out here, and he's been stranded before in the escape capsule. So, it's a no-go for Eric. So yeah, he's gonna do.
Now
whatever
you
he
have
can do.
you have ship shoes on him, which have a transducer, which usually pops on Eric Collins and causes a magnetic lock so you could walk. You realize that whatever's happening that's not working. Usually when the ship loses gravity, your boots are built to start to magnetically hold, but they don't go. So you go swimming aft through the causeways towards the decoupler.
Okay. He does it as gracefully as he can muster. And
you don't have to roll for that. You have 0G.
Gotcha.
I think as you reach the aft, you got to go a little bit further aft than the aft holds where Max is. I think about that period of time, Max is opening the hold and coming out from the aft hold. Unless he just left us. Where I have Eric Collins go swimming through, and I think you're going to meet Max when he returns coming out of the aft hold. Captain Harm, as you exit the galley's breakout locker, there's no gravity. You're kind of holding on to the sides, and you see these emergency lights, or some of them are working, not all of them, because it is the Bishop's Gambit. What does Captain Harm do?
I will try to... Wait, let me look at... Okay, so I'm trying to find where I am.
You're about here in forward.
Okay.
A little bit, you're pretty close to... You're like 1 or 2 spots away from cryo, and you're, right down from the pilot house.
I'm gonna go to cryo, see if I can make my way to cryo, see if anything happened there, and then try to find someone later.
Okay. So Captain Harm, you swim through the space, probably holding on. Now, the Bishop Gambit, like all ships that go in space, have handholds for this thing in case they lose gravity or you find yourself in a way that you need to use. So you go swimming through with these handholds on either side of the ship because they're built that way. Shipbuilders know that shit happens, you're going to lose gravity, so you need to be able to orient yourself. So you go kind of swimming down, not nearly as graceful as Eric Collins does, but you go swimming down. You round through the open, what should be airlock, which you know why is no longer there. And as you round into the airlock, you see this bald-headed man putting on, is it orange clothes, Oni?
Orange robes, yes.
Orange robes.
He has a hood and a sash.
You round the cryo opening, which no longer has an airlock. You see a woman floating, probably tethered to one and just waving in the wind. Little drops of goo all around it. You know that's completely wrong because goo is never supposed to come out of the cryo chamber, even when you are in a janky marine helicopter. It just doesn't happen. But you see this man probably holding on, bald-headed, just put on his orange robes and this satchel. What does Captain Harm do as she sees this individual in cryo she's never seen before?
He'll probably blink in confusion and just like try to go over and talk to this guy he's never seen before and be like, hey, let's talk, like just be like, let's figure out what's wrong and then we can talk about about who you are. Like,
okay. Oni, you hear Captain Harm's voice. Another person has entered cryo.
He bends forward and gives a bow and says, hello. Where are we? What's happened?
we are on the Bishop's Gambit. I do not know what has happened quite yet in terms of the lack of gravity at the moment. I would like to talk to one of my crewmates about why they think this has happened. But I have no good answer for you on quite yet on what has happened.
This isn't the magpie?
That is not the name that the name I had given you is the name I was given for the ship.
Okay.
Oni, my
yes.
fault. Oni remembers a number. When he suddenly says magpie, and it's not the magpie, but he remembers a number, CS108. He doesn't know why. It just pops in his head, CS108, and a word, the word spare. He has no idea what spare means or CS108. But as soon as he says magpie, he has these words pop in his head, CS108 and spare.
I'm keeping that to myself at the moment because it seems kind of random. So, I'm sorry. My name is Oni. The woman is dead. I was not able to help her.
Harm will just kind of spare a glance at the woman and be like, we can deal with the woman later. We should probably try and figure out what is happening. Oh, I should mention my name is Harm. Forgot to introduce myself. But yeah, we should probably get the zero gravity situation fixed first.
I am not good with ship systems, but should there be any injuries, I may be able to help heal people.
Well, it's a good thing we have Eric Collins for that. And then I'll kind of just try and figure out, like, kind of, I don't know where Eric Collins would have gone, but I'll probably just kind of make my way towards, like, the main, like, out of cryo and, like, into one of the, like, main areas, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
to, like, try and find him.
I think Captain Harm would know that main engineering is aft. He doesn't know much
so
about much ships, but all the clinking matter is aft.
Yeah, so he'll go to engineering and be like, that's all he knows about ships.
Okay.
Like, just go to where Eric Collins most likely will be.
The other
Oni-
thing that
Oni will follow you, Harm.
The other thing Captain Harm knows is she has no idea who that woman is. She's never seen him before. She's never been on the ship that she knows of. She has no idea who she is, what her name is, anything. Dr. Rizal probably, no, it was Eric Collins who looked in all the cryo chambers. He probably saw her face, but he doesn't know who she is either once he eventually met.
I guess I shouldn't ask questions because I'm not there.
Right. Dr. Rizal, as you exit your aft engineering, what do you do at present? The ship is completely quiet. There's no gravity. You don't even hear that hum, which you might not really recognize, but it sounds just eerily quiet. You see sparking of wiring and open panels because the ship is shaken and dents in the hull, the walkway hull, but they've always been there, so it's probably nothing worrisome. What does Dr. Rizal do?
So, not being a stranger to, military procedure, he knows that there usually are standard operating procedures about when there's a casualty or something. So I think he would head towards where the electricity would be coming from, probably in the same direction where Eric Collins is,
Or
and just
going
kind
to,
of feel for the handrails, and kind of, while holding the flashlight, just kind of like one arm pull himself through the corridors.
There's emergency procedures, so do you ask the ship's AI what's going on?
Yeah, let's do that. Computer, status of the ship.
Absolute freaking silence. Dr. Rizal. Mr. Tim doesn't come on, doesn't talk to you, nothing. You say it a couple times, you hit your communicator, your personal communicator, you look at your hub, and it's just all jangled, and there's no Mr. Tim. There's no ship AI. It's just dead quiet. You look up at the little camera that's on the walkway, and there's no little red light. You get no response.
Blasted technology.
I resent that.
Eric Collins, you come aft just as Max is exiting the aft hold. You don't collide in him because you're like a ballerina in 0G, and you're going hand over fist, and you see Max open the aft starboard hold airlock and step out gingerly in zero gravity. As Max and Eric Collins meet, what happens?
What the 0G? We seem to have suffered a malfunction.
Yeah, I was. You know what? You missed a lot. I think I might have forgot about you on purpose. There's some things we need to talk about. But I need to go check on the coupler. Maybe you could come with me and leave your friend.
Yes, I can do that. The everything seems okay in there. I think I can do that. I don't have the particular mechanical requirements, I guess, to work on faulty stuff, but I do have the mathematical capacity that I may be able to help you.
Much appreciated, Max.
So the company probably the company and Oni reconvene in engineering. Everyone's heading aft towards engineering in some fashion. Eric Collins and Max probably don't get there first because Dr. Rizal is already there, crawling out of his space, and Eric Collins and the android Max meet him in aft engineering. And then shortly thereafter, the Marine Harm, Captain Harm, shows up with a bald-headed man wearing a orange robe and hood behind him. As you all convene in the aft engineering space, what happens?
Eric makes like a very, very quiet joke of, I guess, getting like a 2-for-1 deal because we lost Ace, but now we've got these 2 new faces. And he's gonna acknowledge, Oni and say, I guess someone should get you up to speed. I'd introduce you to Mr. Tim, but I think he's occupied right now as he dives into a panel just to try to diagnose what's happening.
Yeah, I think Eric Collins, about that time you hear Mr. Tim back online doing diagnostics over the little tinny speakers above you.
Maybe I could take a look at Tim.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Are you going to go to the pilot house, Android Max?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, assuming Mr. Tim is technically a big computer, right? Like he's just a big motherboard, right?
He has a central processor somewhere and probably a couple accessory processors.
Okay. Yeah, since I'm trained in computers, I'll try to go up there and try to figure out what's going on with Tim.
Okay. Mr. Tim comes back online and you hear him running diagnostics. Habitation, 30%. Oxygen, 97%. Engines offline. Gravity offline. Maneuvering offline. Shit. And then when he hears someone laugh, like maybe Eric Collins laughs, someone laughs,
Yeah.
He goes, Android Max, I think I got the hang of joking.
Max will just kind of chuckle to himself and kind of just shake his head and keep making his way through the ship.
All right, so Max is going to, about face, go forward. He walks past Captain Harm and Oni. Oni, you know that Max is an android. It's hard to, but he looks different. You haven't seen an android like him. He moves way too fluid. His skin almost looks normal. Like when you look at him, you think at first he's human because you haven't seen an android that looks as human-like as Max.
I suppose it all depends on when I went into cryo. Maybe there were some developments since I went.
Oni
under.
might think that.
Yes. Oni looks over and sees a gentleman who has been wounded. May I help you, sir? I have some healing salves and ointments. Perhaps you need some help. I can help you.
And then off table, that's what I was going to say. So would my armor help with being slammed into the wall of the the gravity coming offline? Or
Yeah, I wrote in there that it would subtract AP as long as you didn't want to break your armor.
Okay, all right.
And if you were wearing it.
So just take all 6 of it from my armor?
Right, so armor works like if you go over your armor's AP, the armor is broken and has to be repaired. And so it's up to you. You could decide you broke your armor. Oh, well, you have 10 armor points.
10,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so you wouldn't take those 6 if you were wearing it because you're wearing heavy armor. Or Oni, who were you talking to that was wounded?
The gentleman who is at the computer terminal right now.
Eric Collins?
Yeah.
We have not been introduced. I am Oni.
I turn around. I don't know. Do they shake hands in the future? That's probably a thing that's never gone away.
He just bows.
Yeah. Okay. Then I give a curt nod And Eric Collins says, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this. Sure, if you can let me work one hand." And I just kind of stretch my arm out.
I'm
just
sure.
wanna-
Yes, I'm sure you can maintain your business, your tasks, while I have a look at this. So now I will go to skills and do field medicine.
Yep, field medicine and probably intellect.
Okay, so click on field and intellect and normal.
Right.
Ooh, squeaks that one.
And what does field medicine give Eric Collins?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I think it would heal. We'll just make a ruling today.
1d8.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit much. Why don't we make it 1d6?
Hey, you gotta ask.
Can't hurt.
3. Okay. So Oni is patching up Eric Collins while he's checking out. Android Max is going to go to the pilot house and try to figure out what's going on with Mr. Tim. Dr. Rizal, you see Max leave. Mr. Tim comes back online and is running system diagnostics. Eric Collins is trying to fix some of the ship. What does Dr. Rizal do?
I think he would help Eric Collins try to fix the ship. I think he would have found like some kind of procedure or something and kind of shine his light, give him illumination, and kind of point out like it says here to put this in that thing. I think what you're doing is incorrect.
Have you ever done a spot check? Have you ever done a spot check, Dr. Rizal?
I want to say yes. He has done spot checks before.
Yeah, he probably finds a spot check.
He said that is unsat. You're gun decking it.
So what we'll do is we'll have Dr. Rizal roll something to see if he's helpful. I think it would be intellect and maybe military training. I don't know if anything else matches for skills.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we'll see if you are of help or harm to Eric Collins. Oh, look at that. Eric Collins.
I did something.
Getting so much help over here.
Right. Dr. Rizal is like nattering.
With our powers combined.
He's going down the like spot checklist. Number 11, number 12, number 13, 13B, 13C. What does Eric Collins say while he's, trying to help him?
I'm just gonna grin and bear it. Okay. And this is I'm assuming like the ship has probably been through so much shit that half of the things he's checking on are either already jerry-rigged or not even there. I'm like, no, that part hasn't been there in a long time. That's been patched through. So I'm running down a list with him because this is like, I feel like my father's here again, and he's over my shoulder looking at my work. I say thank you, doctor, but most of this is different than the manual at this point.
Eric Collins, roll mechanical repair, and given Dr. Rizal's help, you can make that advantage.
Yeah. Now, would I be able to mechanical repair? Okay.
Yeah.
Intellect advantage, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
You're going through system diagnostics. There's probably a little screen there that as soon as Mr. Tim comes online, you see a whole bunch of characters just splay across, letterings and numerals, and it makes no sense at all until it kind of formulates itself and goes through system diagnostics. And the one thing you notice is the engine is offline, but its fuel and energy, like it has battery reserves that are running the emergency lights and some other thing. You just see it ticking down, tick, tick, 50%, 49%, 48%. And something is draining the ship, which shouldn't happen.
I call for. Would I be able to do a system scan for like life forms, like Mr. Tim would? But I know he's on the fritz.
Sure.
Is that working? Can I do that from a terminal?
You probably go into subsystem array
Yeah.
and find the required number of life signs. Oni, Dr. Rizal, Captain Harm, Captain Eric Collins, Captain Max, and the alien in the aft starboard hold. And you see no other extra life forms on listed.
Might have to do a spacewalk. Might have to check the outside of the ship.
Okay. Captain Harm, as this is going on and Max is going to the pilot house to kind of sort out Mr. Tim, what's Captain Harm doing?
He'll probably go and like, I'm trying to think. Like, I guess he'll go and like check it on Max.
Okay. You go to the pilot house with Max, or where the control systems are. You and Max go forward. You essentially walk the whole ship in these emergency lightings, hand over hand, because there's no gravity. And you get to the 4 stairs that lead up into the pilot house, and the door is open. The single airlock door that can shut the pilot house from the whole ship, so that it's the only thing that's left if there's a emergency hull breach. And you follow Max in. Max and you go up the 4 steps into the pilot house. There's blinking lights everywhere. There's a plastic plate that's floating around and a single chocolate chip cookie in the air. And Max, as you get to the pilot chair, there's like a pilot's chair and a bench with, straps that you could strap in, probably enough to seat 4 to 6 people. What does Max do as he enters the pilot house?
You're muted.
The first thing he's going to do is thank you every time. First thing he's going to do is ask Mr. Tim, can you? Is it possible to run a self-diagnostics?
Mr. Tim is operational, but Captain Max, what has happened? I remember entering hyperspace, and I remembering waking up. But there's a large chunk of me that is missing. My memory has been corrupted.
Max is going to try to find panel of some sorts to where he can kind of look at Mr. Tim.
You could probably do it from the diagnostic screen if you're going to run diagnostics on your own.
Okay, then yeah, he's going to kind of make his way to that screen and he's going to say, Mr. Tim, will you tell me a joke to try to, so he's not so concentrated on what I'm doing while I'm digging around inside of him or looking
A
at
teamster, a scientist, and a marine walk into a bar as you're digging at his thing. You're gonna, as he's telling you this joke, he's butchering it completely, Max, but he's trying because you haven't really taught him enough jokes yet. What are you gonna use? Hacking or computers?
So Mr. Tim he's telling me that he's totally fine, right? So there's nothing.
Well, he's telling you he's lost the memory module, or there's a blank space between
his memory.
Right. He gets to the point of hyperspace raiders, and then Eric Collins asking him to do an emergency hyperspace eject. That's the last thing he remembers. And then he remembers waking up as you are all back aft in engineering.
Okay, then I'm gonna try to hack it.
Okay. Captain Harm, is there anything you can do to help him?
I don't think there is, because I have military training, athletics, and wilderness survival. So there's not really much I can do other than like kind of attempt to somewhat like supplement what Mr. Tim remembers.
Do you try to do that? Like, you know, point out stuff, or what's that flashing light, or maybe you flip this switch, or do you just let Mr. Tim Max do his thing?
I'll take direction from Max when he needs me to do stuff.
Okay.
I'll basically like I don't touch anything until like Max needs me to do it, because like I don't want to interrupt his groove.
All right. So Max, you're on your own.
Oni can provide inspirational statements and readings.
You're in the back aft, Oni, in engineering. They're all the way up forward in pilot. You're still probably working on Eric Collins. So, Max, make a hacking roll. Just flat out. Oh. You butcher it.
What is going on? Why am I even here?
I think Mr. Tim like even pipes up, Captain Max, stop messing around in my guts. No, and he like shuts down the screen. Please do not shift any buttons. I understand what's going on. And Max, you suddenly feel this unwell feeling. And about that time, you feel the mother inside you recede, like suddenly draw back, and you just hear her say, it opens, and all of a sudden, like a little bit of a, not a shriek, but some degree of danger, and you feel her recede inside you, like it opens, like she's trying to hide, and I need you to make a body save at disadvantage.
Well, this will go well, I'm sure.
Oh,
Yeah, it went very well.
oh, that's terrible. Captain Harm, you're standing there just trying to, do what a Marine does, waiting for orders, waiting for Max to do something. He's standing over the console, and then all of a sudden his knees go completely out from him and he falls unconscious to the ground.
Just like the first time.
Yes, Oni.
Out of game. Failure of a save and double is critical failure.
Right.
Okay.
It is.
I'm learning. Please be
Right.
patient.
Yes, please remind me of how bad I failed.
Right. He doesn't need to make a panic check because that body save for something very specific. But you're out. He's completely out. I need Max to roll
Are you sure you want me to roll?
just a flat out D20. Nine. Okay. And then let me look at your sheet. I'd roll a D8. There you go. So Max, you suddenly tap out. Subsystem management, drastic shutdown. You feel this sudden surge, like magnetic surge, and fries. Like you barely have microseconds to shut down your main processors before overload, and you are unconscious on the ground. You fall in such a manner that your head slams against the console, and you take 4 damage. Captain Harm, you're standing there when Max suddenly loses all body control and just hits the console, rolls off it, and just laying on the ground, eyes wide open, but obviously not there. What does Captain Harm do?
He'll kind of just be like, Mr. Tim, can you use stim packs on androids?
I believe so. There's no, as a GM, there's no. He does have some biological processes. There's no indication that you can't use stim packs in Mothership on androids, and so Mr. Tim would probably says, "I believe they will work."
Okay, so I'm gonna try. And...
I didn't do it, Captain Harm. I'm just telling you right now, whatever happened to Captain Max was not my fault. I was telling a perfectly calm joke, and I didn't even get to end to it. He was supposed to laugh, and I believe he shut himself down.
Okay, Mr. Tim. I'll try to use a stim pack on Max, and then.
Okay. You pull one from personal reserve.
Do I roll for that?
No. You don't have to roll for a stim pack. Just so I remind everyone what a stim pack does. It decreases stress by 1 and restores 1d10 health. And it grants advantage on all rolls for 10 minutes. So stim packs usually have 5 doses per stim pack, and Captain Harm, you take your personal stim pack because everyone's probably carrying one on them regardless, and jab it into Max. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna try. If it doesn't work, I'm asking Mr. Tim for help again.
All right. Since you're doing it, I would have you roll the benefit, the 1d10 health.
Okay. What? Frick. Get the 8.
Ooh.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All right. Captain Max, you're bent over the android Max. I mean, Captain Harm, you're bent over to android Max, and you jab him with the stim pack. And Mr. Tim says, Captain Harm, just a question. Should I inform the rest of the crew that Captain Max is out of commission? Or should we keep it to ourselves? Honestly, it was not my fault.
Try and tell Eric Collins once he's done figuring out how to get everything back online.
Okay. Eric Collins, Oni, and Dr. Rizal, you're aft engineering, and that little tinny speaker, that's all around the Bishop's Gambit. Mr. Tim's voice comes out. Captain Eric Collins, have you found the drain of the engines?
No. Do you have any probable causes for this drain?
Yes. We are drained by the ship that we are sitting next to.
Thank you, Mr. Tim. Do we have eyes on the ship?
Nominally, we have 2 exterior cameras are working of the 14 usual. It looks like it's some sort of scientific vessel. We are our hulls are abutting. I am trying to open the blast hyperspace shield in the pilot house, and by the way, it wasn't my fault, but Captain Max is inoperable again.
I turn to Doctor and Oni, and I say, I think we have a problem. Unless they heard everything. Still,
yeah. The speaker's above you, so
I'm standing right here, Mr. Collins.
Yeah, but I just wanted to reiterate that we had, ever since you woke up. Fuck.
Can Oni provide any
indeed.
service for healing to Mr. Max or Captain Max?
Max is an android. I don't know if.
Oh, Max is the
Noticed.
android. Ah.
Yeah, I think you have to have some other skill to use for.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm role playing.
Okay, and I'm making sure. I have to remember too, but it's been a couple weeks. Mr. Tim says, "No worries, new crew member Oni. Captain Harm has given him a stim pack. I think it'll work."
Sure hope so. We the unknown keeps finding us, and I'm not sure how much this ship can take.
Well, Captain Eric
Can I say
Collins,
something out of character?
sure.
So, just a thought, right? Obviously, my character wouldn't know this, but maybe Eric Collins or shoot, Harm would know this. Is if Max is out and he's the one controlling the alien,
Fuck.
right? I'm just saying, right?
The doors.
My character wouldn't
closed.
know this.
Yes, the doors closed, and we're gonna pretend it's not there right now.
If you don't see it, then it's not there.
Yep.
Oni knows nothing.
Eric is probably something in the back of his mind. He maybe doesn't remember. He's trying not to think about the tentacled monstrosity.
And you guys don't know, but Mother did, I guess, pull back for whatever reason right before I shut down.
Right. They have no idea that
So-
happened.
Great. Awesome.
So I look
mean to
at
put
I look
fuel
at
on the
look at
fire.
the bald dude, not knowing all this, of course, and I'm like, surely there's something you can do with an android. I mean, isn't it part human?
I shall look. I shall do my best,
Okay.
and I will. This way.
Forward.
Yeah. I kind of shine my light over there in the direction where you need to go.
Okay. So Oni's going forward to see if he can help Captain Max. Captain Harm is, maybe grab Max and is holding him down because there's no gravity, making sure maybe put a foot on him or something so he doesn't drift where he's not supposed to. Dr. Rizal and Eric Collins, you're staying aft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of address Eric Collins' question about other problems. Well, let's handle this one problem at a time. First, let's get the lights on. Can you do that?
Can I do that? It looks like there's a power drain. Is there? Can I reroute anything to get things functioning for now?
Sure. You want to try to reroute just lighting?
At least.
Just lighting, nothing else.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to rewrite lighting, you could make a roll. It's not complicated, and I would let you make that roll at advantage.
Can I use mechanical repair?
Yeah.
All right. Advantage, and I'm assuming I'm throwing intellect on there, and let's do this. Nice.
You are in the aft, Eric Collins, with Dr. Rizal, who wants better lighting, which is to be reasonable because who knows what that alien is doing in aft starboard hold. And the lights come on as you
Well
reroute
done, Mr.
some.
Collins.
Right? Mr. Tim comes over to the comm and says, Captain Eric Collins, sunrise, 0:43 p.m. Only
He
you
just laughed.
Which sun is it?
Yeah, you probably hear Mr. Tim's flat chuckle. I made Eric Collins laugh. I'm getting better at this every moment I try. And so, Oni, you're going forward. You reach the pilot house, which is the far forward end of the ship, where all the controls are. If you want to take manual control, it also has the single double blast door or airlock, so that if everything decompresses behind you, whoever's in the pilot house may survive. because the ship is the most important proprietary thing in any corporation, even though if it's yours at the moment. You just got 4 stairs leading up into the pilot house, and you see Captain Harm probably holding the android Max, and you smell baking as you enter the pilot house.
Smell baking. Hunger. I will look around.
Yeah, as you enter the pilot house, you just see this floating chocolate chip cookie and a plastic plate, and maybe there's some crumbs, here and there.
This will help me with my sickness, my cryo sickness, and I'll grab the cookie.
Okay. It won't help, but it is a good chocolate chip cookie. There's a bit of nutmeg in it and some cinnamon, which is odd, but it is what it is. What do you do as you see Captain Max and Captain Harm? You see the android on the floor, and Captain Harm, the Marine, kind of holding them down. He's got a stim pack in his hand. It's probably securing it back into a belt loop. What does Oni do?
He will look at the strange android and try to determine whether there are any biological systems that Oni may be able to help with, heal with.
Nothing that's damaged, Oni. You probably bend over and inspect Captain Max. It's been about 9 minutes since he's been out, and he doesn't necessarily have physical damage you can fix. And then Captain Max, the android's eyes dilate and then constrict a little bit when his central processors come back online. Captain Max, you awake visual cortex first before central processing, and you see Oni leaning over you, and probably past them you see Captain Max, and you realize that you had an emergency, some sort of shutdown, but you also know that it wasn't a shutdown that was instituted by your own systems.
Oni says, "My job is done."
What does Captain Max do?
Max will wake up and kind of like, like in school where you used to have when you were asleep on the desk and you had that sensation of falling. He'll kind of like jump up and kind of take a moment to process like who this random person is in front of him, and then kind of look at Harm, and then kind of look at the room around, and just kind of just like take a deep breath in and deep breath out and just stay silent.
Okay. Captain Harm and Oni, about this time, the blast shield of the viewport for the pilot house opens. And it opens up, and you just get a view like the Bishop Gambit is turned up on its top end against another ship, and you just see a gray hull and the letters IS. There's other letters there, but you're so close to the other ship that you can't really see what it says. What does Captain Harm do when the blast doors open?
He'll probably ask Mr. Tim, because he probably didn't hear Mr. Tim like tell Eric Collins what kind of ship it was, so he'll probably be like, "Mr. Tim, what kind of ship is this that we're looking at?"
Captain Harm, external cameras find designation JNC TAC 11, archaeological research vessel, the Alexis. Schematics show that it has a med bay and a science lab, and something on the ship has taken out Captain Max by EMG or some sort of pulse wave activity, and presently is draining our engines and electrical reserve. I haven't told Captain Eric Collins yet. I wanted to see if he would figure it out on his own, so let's make it our secret.
Until he confronts us about it, fine.
So it was the pulse wave from the ship.
Yes, Captain Max. Some sort of wave from the ship is draining our power, and I haven't determined the periodicity of the wave, but that is what made you inoperable.
I'm just going to assume that it was your bad joke, Tim, that put me to sleep.
I never finished my joke, Captain Max. And I
It was
just
so-
made Eric Collins laugh, so I'm getting better.
Well, Eric Collins laughs at anything, so that's not hard to do.
I feel like Eric Collins would probably, if he did laugh out of, okay, this is awkward, so I'm gonna like, just laugh anyway.
Okay? Dr. Rizal and Eric Collins, you're back aft. Mr. Tim's voice comes over the comms and says, Captains and Dr. Rizal, Captain Max has been woken. He is now fully functional. Have you made any headway with what's troubling us and the other ship?
I figure they're draining our power somehow. We need to figure out a way to decouple. That's not something you can do with an automated process, right, Mr. Tim?
No, Captain Eric Collins, but we are not coupled to the ship. We are just resting against her hull.
That's the oddest thing I've ever heard.
Yes,
Mr.
I have no
Tim,
idea. Go ahead.
Mr. Tim, is this a typical defensive strategy for somebody who may think that we are pirates?
No, Oni, it is an archaeological research vessel. It has no inherent weaponry.
Well, whatever it is over there, we need to get it shut down, or else we're stuck without life support, lights, or anything.
I agree, Captain Eric Collins. You could
I
take the
say-
spider shuttle.
Oh, okay.
I say, okay, Mr. Tim, can you have everybody meet us? Can you have everybody meet outside of the, I guess, airlock for the spider shuttle? Because we need to get to the bottom of this.
I will inform the other captains and our new crew member, or stowaway, that you would like to meet him at the shuttle entrance. Dr. Rizal, you were going to say something? I probably took what you were going to say, but
No, I was going to ask how we're going to get over there. So, okay. The spider shuttle. Another just kind of housekeeping thing. You want us to remove the weapons that we got from like the past time
Oh
lock
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
right, when you're in a dream, you don't have those on you.
So, hearing that we're all about to, I guess, make this journey, I'm gonna go back to the locker room, or Dr. Rizal's gonna go back to the locker room and equip his vac suit.
Okay. So I think everyone would recognize that somehow the Bishop Gambit exited hyperspace and found itself in this position where it's hull to hull with this other ship of some nature, and has lost power, and the other ship is somehow siphoning off power, and the engines are no longer capable of operating. And the plan is perhaps to take the spider shuttle. For Oni, the spider shuttle is this shuttle that the prior captain Alexandria retrofitted in probably illegal manner to one of the airlocks. It's a shuttle with 6 arms, 3 on either side. It looks like a giant mechanical spider.
Is there any way to communicate with the other ship before we just board it?
Oh, smart.
Captain Max, let me try, Mr. Tim says.
Sorry, that was off table, but I was literally, it was running through my head. I was like, probably before we just board this thing.
Mr. Tim comes back and says, Captain Max, sensors are not operable. I cannot tell if there's life forms on board. I continue to hail the ship, the Alexis, but I only get static. I will keep trying, but I am not getting a response. Their systems seem to be up. I can count engineering, habitability, oxygen, gravity, but I cannot penetrate the hull for life signs.
Mr. Tim, is there any way you can... Well, I don't know if the ship would have it, with it being a freighter, though. Never mind. I'll just keep going with it. I'm
All right.
thinking too meta. Okay.
So what would the crew plan as they're planning to go on this over to this other ship via the Spider Shuttle? Figure out how it's draining power from the Bishop's Gambit. How would you kit yourself out? You could take what you will. Any other planning you would do before you embark or disembark, I would say.
I could take
there's a
the
kit.
alien companion over there. That could be disastrous if there are non-combatants over there, but if they are uncooperative, then it would prove to our advantage. It is not alarmingly, but it is quite hungry.
That's actually really alarming, Max. I don't know how to describe to you how alarming that is.
I didn't want to say anything, but it is quite hungry, and it seems to have affixed itself to the ceiling of the cargo bag.
I'm sorry.
But-
What did you say? What's hungry?
Yeah, Rizal doesn't know about it either.
We may have another stowaway, as you say, in the cargo hold that may or may not be my doing. I was only trying to save the crew, as that is my primary directive, is to make sure the crew is safe. We did lose one of the crew members, Ace, though. Unfortunately, I could not save him.
And this stowaway is dangerous to everyone on board? Why don't we just eject it?
I have somewhat control of it. The mother is, well, more or less somehow connected to me through one of the artifacts that we found.
What artifacts?
Who's with me? Harm, and is Harm the only one with me, or we're all together?
Yeah, I
We're all
think you all are
I
kind of
assume
meeting,
we're all together.
kitting out to go
yeah.
on.
He's going to kind of look at the other two like, no one has told the doctor what we have found.
We haven't really had time. I turn to the doctor and I say, you study xenobiology, right? I think we went over that.
That is correct, Mr. Collins.
We've got something you might be interested in the hold. When we were going to retrieve the artifacts, like Max said, we got a life form, unknown, potentially not potentially. It's highly violent, but Max does seem to have control over it. I can vouch for that.
You have control over it through some artifact?
It was a dagger, right?
A scepter.
Scepter. Yes, I went down with Harm to retrieve a scepter, and I had these visions, this I don't know how to really explain it, but almost like dreams, I guess, and we integrated, I guess, would be the best word.
So you can harness this weapon through this scepter. Can I see it?
Wouldn't say harness with the way I'm rolling. I can persuade it, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. I don't have complete control of Mother has complete control over it, but I can persuade it to do certain things, willingly.
Is Max saying mother? Like, is he saying that out loud?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Is Mother sentient?
It's more of a
feeling.
Yeah.
You didn't tell us about that, Max. I didn't know there was a third party involved. Look, we will die if we don't get this ship off our ass. We can deal with whatever we decide to do with the alien. I'm sorry, Max. When we come back, but our chances of survival are ticking down as we speak. And with that, Harm is gonna grab a torch or something, or cutter, if the airlock that we connect to doesn't want to open. So he straps that to his waist.
Yes, I understand. You are absolutely correct. My directive is just to make sure everyone gets out safely.
Yes, priorities, Mr. Collins. Good.
But
I
I
kind of
seem
look at
fair warning though. I did
Max to
fail.
see if I could see this scepter on his person.
Captains Harm, Eric Collins, and Max, do you show the artifacts to the new crew members?
Who would? So
you have them, Max, or you had them in your backpack? I assume you still have it somewhere, or it's on your back, or it's in cryo, or it's in your locker. In the interim, you had taken the scepter, the metallic bag with these purplish iridescent baubles inside of it, and this hook with a trephination kind of central bore, almost like a curled around giant IV needle, and you had put them in your backpack. In the interim, either you have it in your backpack presently, like you never took it off, or it's in your locker in cryo.
Knowing Max, he probably wouldn't have taken it off because he knows that's his connection to the life form.
Okay.
But how? So, just a slight. So, how do we know these new people? Did they? I know one of them was in cryo, right?
They were both in cryo.
They both were. So they were both already on the ship.
Right.
Okay.
Dr. Rizal woke up while you were having those flashbacks of Mother's life in aft starboard. You probably would learn that in some fashion. Dr. Rizal, Captain Harm, and Captain Eric Collins really haven't discussed their time in cryo. Like, they're not unaware that they shared that dream to begin with. That really hasn't come up, and it may not completely. Oni, I think as you're going towards the pilot house and regrouping, you learn of Oni's ejection from cryo along with another individual who didn't make it. And Eric Collins...
It wouldn't be the individual drinking the milk from the first, second game.
Eric Collins would know that it's not Captain Alexandria. Maybe he checks because he saw an older Captain Alexandria through the viewport of the cryo. He probably recognizes Oni's face because he's the only one who after you came back went and checked. Yeah, so I think he saw he didn't see Rizal's face because he didn't even check the other cryo chambers until after that event. He went to check them after Rizal was woken up. He probably saw Oni's face and recognizes it, but that's the information you have regarding Dr. Rizal and Oni. There are 5 other cryo chambers that have occupants.
Oh, so that's if other people die, right?
Now
that's how we get our new characters.
Captain Eric Collins, did you share any of that? Like,
I don't feel like we've had time to.
Right.
There's
I don't
been
think so
problem
either.
after problem.
Right.
So
So I think Max is going to kind of look at Harm and Collins, and because his directive was to make sure the crew stays alive, but seeing how there's only 2 of the original crew that he went there with, he's going to kind of look at them, and it is up to y'all if you would like to show them the scepter.
I think we still have more pressing concerns. I don't think we should bring our payday with us. We're planning to sell these artifacts. I say to Doctor, and yeah, because if you look around at the hanging wires and the broken panels, there's a lot of repairs that need to be done before we can call this, properly space worthy. And right now there's a ship draining what few resources we have left. So,
but what were to happen if we didn't make it back to our ship? Our payday would be gone.
We'd be gone.
I would not, Mr. Tim says.
Mr. Tim, not now.
Oh, sorry, I was eavesdropping.
Look,
It's fine. Just
I know you two didn't go planet side with us, but you were on the ship just like we are. I'm speaking to Oni and Doctor and the Doctor, and I say it's up to you guys if you want to come with us, but I don't know if you want to leave your survival in the hands of others.
Payday. Does this involve selling the alien? If it's sentient, that would be slavery.
no, I don't think we're planning on selling the alien.
I think
If
the
I-
alien would probably eat you before you could sell it.
Yeah. Plus, we can talk about this as we go on to the other ship, because I feel like if we don't do something about it soon, it's not going to end well.
Parker's not going to say anything because I think he would want to sell the alien to get more money to fix more things.
Oni does not hear. Oni has cryo sickness. His head is sore. He will go with you. He will go with you.
I retrieve the one stim pack out of my bag and I say, we need you in top shape. And thank you for fixing my arm.
I don't think the stim pack will help with cryo sickness, will it?
Yeah.
Oh.
A stim pack abolishes cryo sickness. It's the only way to do it immediately if you don't have the time or the week to do it. So if you take a stim pack, it reverses cryo sickness. You get advantage for 10 minutes on all rolls and 1d10 health, and you end cryo sickness. But each time you use them after the first time, you have to roll a d10. If you roll under the number that you've taken, you have to do a death save.
And just a quick question: does everyone see the fate chart question?
Yeah, I don't know if we were supposed to do that.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I don't know.
Oh,
if
can
that's
you
just
guys
me
see that?
thing or-
Can you see the answer?
Yes, we saw that.
Oh, you know what's funny is in my other game when I do that, when I sometimes when I play as a GM, I don't know what's happening, and so I will ask Fate the question and tell me what's happening. I don't decide on my own. When I do that in my other game, they can't see it. But it's interesting you see it. It's player knowledge that I think it's kind of funny. It probably fits Mothership that you can see it, and it adds a little bit of angst to it. So
Okay, I just wanted to share. I was like, which I messaged you on Discord, and I was like, does everybody see that, or is that just supposed to be?
I didn't.
in my other game, it just shows all question marks, and so I thought that you would just see all question marks. That I asked a question, but you didn't know. But I think it's apropos that you actually see the question I asked and what the answer is. I think it's player knowledge that kind of is funny.
If you want to add angst, you should have had a klaxon going in the background, audio.
I feel like half of them wouldn't even work.
Eric Collins gets a welder. You decide to stow the artifacts. It doesn't sound like you're gonna discuss or show them at the moment. Oni, I assume you take the stim pack.
Yes, Oni asks, are there more of these?
Each stim pack has 5 doses. There's a couple stim packs in the second drawer below every cryo chamber. They're kind of standard. Marines, practically have them, stuck. They have one in one leg and one in another leg, and there's always one in like the second drawer of cryo your clothes are usually in the first drawer. Cryo chambers sit on like this pedestal with drawers in it, and so each of you can have a stim pack with 5 doses in it.
And I think Max is just going to stick with his. He's going to get his slug revolver and
Okay.
I guess his tranquilizer pistol.
So Oni, if you do the stim pack, you can roll 1d10 to recover health, and you also reduce 1 stress when you do that. I
Okay,
assume Max
I
did that.
I have no health problems.
Right.
I do have only 1 stress. So perhaps I'll grab a free stim pack, keep it with me, and when I need it, I'll take it.
Right, because you're at disadvantage for every single roll for a week.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So you take a stim pack, but Oni, maybe it's part of his theology. He doesn't use it right away. He's worked his way past the worst cryo sickness. Maybe there's something learned from suffering with cryo sickness of this magnitude. His head is still pounding and he feels, jittery and jumpy, and, like his heart is intermittently tachycardic and bradycardic and tachycardic and weird. And everyone prepares to go with the spider shuttle to the scientist vessel called the Alexis. Anyone have any comments before we do that?
What other equipment might we be able to bring over with us? I mean, are there free tools about, or does everybody have enough tools? Should I bring something that I can carry?
There's a couple handguns and slug pistols really are the main things, and maybe 1 extra submachine gun in the contraband hold that they found. There's also a bag of round, square, and triangular objects that seem to be some sort of mixed grenades.
I turn to Oni with one of the smaller guns, and I say, "Are you sure you don't want to take one?"
No, Oni does not do harm to others, but he has his own ways.
Okay.
Fine. I tuck it back into storage.
Oni can carry. If you need a mule to carry things, Oni will carry.
Oh, Mr. Tim says that the archaeological vessel has a med bay. It should have a advanced surgical unit. Perhaps that can be stripped from the ship.
What?
Nice.
Perhaps we should just take this out of game. Perhaps we should just take this ship. It sounds like it's in better repair.
That's why I didn't leave everything over there.
That's a
On our
possibility.
I don't know, because we have a whole freighter though, right? Like that's a
It's
smaller
empty.
vessel.
Yeah, this is a freighter with a giant cargo hold and 2 aft and starboard smaller
Fill it
holds
up though, money.
that are more probably related to water carrying.
Also,
and,
I mean, that ship doesn't have an alien on it, so
and
That's a positive.
that ship is an archaeological ship, which is mainly for study. That's why it has a science lab and a med bay with advanced med bay that your ship doesn't have it. But Eric Collins probably figures he could retrofit anything into this ship like this.
I was about to say, it looked like Eric was over there cooking for a minute.
Yeah. I mentioned this epiphany that Eric has, apropos of nothing, about stealing, taking, borrowing, using their medical facilities if there's no one on board and they're not,
Okay.
Yeah. And seeing whatever else we can take. So I say, Oni, keep your hands free. We might be coming back with some gifts for Mr. Tim.
Right. So everyone loads up into the Spider shuttle. The Spider shuttle airlock is right here. I just painted on the map. Captain Alexandria, Mr. Tim has told the rest of the crew, retrofitted the Spider shuttle to the hatch. Eric Collins just found this conduit to be somewhat janky and questionable, but it's worked so far. You load up in the Spider shuttle. There's a pilot seat and a co-pilot seat, and there's 2 benches on either side with harnesses. Mr. Tim comes over to comms and says, will anyone be manually piloting, or shall we do an automated maneuver?
Dr. Rizal will sit in the back.
I would suggest an auto maneuver.
I agree, Max. I still sit in the captain's in the pilot seat, I guess, just in case.
Okay. So I see maybe Captain Eric Collins and Captain Max sitting in the pilot co-pilot seat. The rest of you hit your jump seats and put on your harnesses. You kind of swim in there through the 0 gravity, and Eric Collins probably spins the hatch closed. The lights come on the shuttle. You can see this ship because you're turned slightly. You don't see it at first because you're actually on the other side of it. Your ship, the Bishop Gambit, is blocking it, and so when you detach from the Spider shuttle in this kind of grinding, rickety fashion, which Eric Collins probably feels is unsafe, the Spider shuttle's 6 legs kind of curl in on each other, and it flares off positioning rockets, and you kind of float over the Bishop Gambit, and you see this huge archaeological ship in front of you. It has this wide bubble in the top and long, thin caricature that comes out the back. The Spider shuttle autopilots to the beacon of its door. Mr. Tim, before you leave, comes on and says, I've uploaded available schematics for the ship. I don't know how accurate they are, but at least it might give you some geography to go by. And you all have these little small HUDs with interconnectivity, so you can talk to each other if you get separated by voice, and you might even be able to see what someone else is seeing if they send you video. Mr. Tim tells you there's atmosphere on the ship and oxygen, and you see this ship through the viewport. Probably those in the back are craned over, and then you lose sight of it because this Spider shuttle has to rotate to connect its belly to the bottom of the shuttle, and it grabs hold, and you just feel it shake and shudder, and then you hear the clamps go around and connect it to the ship. You look at your schematic. I put you on the map. You all are at the bottom, and you've attached to the lower deck airlock right there. The ship quiets down. Everything is very quiet. What do you do next?
I'm gonna go use the restroom real quick. I'll be
Okay,
back.
yeah. If you all want to take a 3 to 5 minute break, if you need to pee, get something to drink. We've been at it for a bit.
That'd be good.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
So what? So I guess the last game everybody was in the dream state. I guess.
No, what happened was You were not. Max wasn't. And they had this waking dream, which isn't necessarily uncommon with cryo. And that's why we kind of did that montage where you were out of sync. You know, you're reliving Mother's life and went catatonic a bit there, so you didn't participate in what happened. So they were in a cryo dream, and each of them relived an event through the eyes of the prior captain, Captain Alexandria, her daughter, Jessica Elizabeth, and this huge Marine called Rocco, who were attacked by a Gordian worm in hyperspace. And the Gordian worms can phase through solid matter. And they fought this Gordian worm in cryo. And oddly enough, the person who was within Captain Alexandria's existence at that point, which I think was I think it was Eric Collins. Anyways, she had a rigging gun and misfired and chopped the door off of the cryo chamber. And that's why the door is missing on cryo chamber. So they start to relive some of these events on the ship by itself. Each of them relived that event through eyes of the participants, not realizing they're all having this kind of shared cryo dream. After that, they were urgently woken up because Eric Collins on the sly told Mr. Tim, "Wake us up if there's any trouble, because I don't trust Captain Max because you brought the alien on board."
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
And so you're out of it in this catatonic state, reliving Mother's life as a new hatchling and brood mother, and then interstellar mother and destroyer of worlds. They are woken up urgently because Mr. Tim detects life forms in the hangar bay, which shouldn't be there. And they have a meeting and event with these entities called the hyperspace raiders, which are human, but they live in hyperspace. And they're a religious kind of group called the Brotherhood of the Void. And they enter the hangar bay and offer the crew membership in their brotherhood to cast off their false lives and live in the void and live in truth and become what they were made to be. And the company decide to just play it out, and then they asked Mr. Tim to forcibly eject them from hyperspace in an emergent maneuver. That's how you end up here. You weren't supposed to exit hyperspace at this spot. You were supposed to go to the communication buoy, but Mr. Tim did an emergency hyperspace exit because the feeling was that the hyperspace raiders would not follow you outside of hyperspace. And that's what happened.
Okay. Well, I apologize for missing the last guy. There was a miscommunication of mine. I thought we were taking the
That's okay.
3-week break after the last game. So I made all these plans. I think next Saturday I'll actually be in North Carolina seeing my son. But I'm going to be in an Airbnb, so I should have, I guess, questionable internet. Try it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's totally on me. I just, for whatever reason, I just remembered taking a 3-week break, and I was like, see y'all in 3 weeks. And then you had messaged me, and I was like, wait, do we have a game? I was like,
yeah, I always post the game in the section in the calendar, so it'll show up in the thing. So you can always check there too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Cause see, I have Discord muted because there's just so many. It's just like notifications. But I'm gonna leave a good majority of those groups, so it should just only be looking for Mother, and then I think 2 or 3 other ones. So I'll be more on top of what's going on.
So
but I do apologize.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, guys.
We figured. You told me beforehand. We had fun. I had fun last session. It was pretty fun.
Is that good if the GM has fun though? That's, I don't know.
No one died. No one died. You know,
That's-
the second part when they were with the hyperspace raiders, I had no idea how that was going to go, and that was all RP and pretty fun. But so the company take this spider shuttle and dock with the archaeological ship CS, archaeological ship JNC TAC 11, or otherwise known as the Alexis. You've attached to the airlock, and the spider shuttle settles down and stops moving. What happens as all movement stops and it quiets? What does the company do?
Max is gonna look at Harm since she's the Marine. Like
Mark does the same.
breach in protocol, perhaps, Mr. Harm?
Sorry, repeat the question, please.
Max is gonna, when we dock, Max is gonna look at you and kind of like, you are the Marine, Mr. Harm, so breach in protocol, perhaps?
Breaching?
Breaching.
Oh, breaching. I was like, what the heck? I'm trying
Mr. Harm, he's saying to open the door.
Obviously I'm gonna go in first.
Okay. So, Captain Harm, Marine Harm, at this point, you take point. Behind you is the crew. They're probably still batting down, taking off the harness. Everyone's looking to you because you are the Marine. And you're at the airlock, and you breach the airlock of the spider shuttle. What do you do as you're standing at the threshold?
I'll kind of just have my gun ready and just kind of poke my head out first and scan the area before we going out.
You feel gravity, first of all, coming off the Bishop Gambit. You peek your head around the corner and you smell spice and old burnt up coffee. Like if coffee was left on the pot, on the burner until it just turned to sludge, that's what you smell. This kind of burnt smell, burnt organic smell, and some sort of spice, not cinnamon, but something else. You look around at this area and it's really just a short hallway. The map seems to be pretty good. You see this kind of open grate right here that looks like a small fan exit leading out, probably Eric Collins to know, leads out to a little walkway where it's a conduit. And you look right and left and you really just see walls and a hatch. You see an airlock right there. That airlock, you notice right away, has been welded shut.
Oni takes a deep breath. Does he recognize the odor? He's a botanist, so.
Allspice, Oni. It's allspice. Darn it if it isn't allspice. Like the spice is allspice. The burnt smell, you have no freaking idea what that is.
Archaeologists are anthropologists. I would have thought maybe patchouli.
Well, it's almost like that, but
nobody got that joke.
So, Captain Harm, you're up front. You look right and left. You see this welded shut airlock or hatch.
Is there power?
There's power. There's
on?
lights.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can suddenly hear Eric Collins, the 60 hertz hum of working fans. Everyone probably doesn't recognize it, but you spend enough time in ship, you lose that hearing anyways. Eric Collins can feel it. You feel airflow. Also, as the airlock opens, you have airflow pushed into the spider shuttle because there's positive pressure, which is working habitation, working airflow. Captain Harm, what do you do as you peer out?
I'll go in and probably just,
Okay.
yeah, I'll probably just, I guess I'll go this way and kind of look in there for, oh, why is it moving the other one too? But I'll probably go in this direction, like to the left first, and like look in that room, and then go in the opposite direction because it seems like the other one has more to explore later.
So Captain Harm steps out and looks around. You see him look around left, right, and then he steps out to the left a little bit. Who's out next? Or what's your order, I should ask?
I can go next.
Okay. Dr. Rizal comes out. Who comes after Dr. Rizal? Do you wait there as you come out? Each of you, tell me, do you just wait there kind of outside the door as Harm checks left, or do you do something else?
I'd like to find the closest like intercom
Okay.
and just kind of reach out to the ship's AI if I can.
Okay. There's probably a station right here by this
Okay.
Airlock door. Dr. Rizal, you go to that airlock door. You see that it's been welded shut. The door itself has been welded shut. Max, you come out after Dr. Rizal. What do you do?
Max will go with the doctor as he's going to the intercom and say, I don't think that's a good idea to advertise our presence. It seems this door was welded shut for a reason, perhaps.
Okay. Max, you follow Dr. Rizal out as he's, trying to get the console to work. This video, liquid video display in the wall of the hall itself. Oni, what do you do as those three exit?
I'm trying to. I'm sure everybody saw. I'm trying to move my icon, and I'm moving everybody else, or I'm moving the three. So I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong.
Let me re-put you on there.
Yeah, it's doing that for me too.
Yeah. Everybody who had orange around them is moving when I tried to move.
Try now.
Okay.
No, it's still letting me move everybody. I don't know why.
Let me just re-drag you all out, and I won't make you small or drag everyone else out, and we'll just do it that way. See if that works for you as I drag you out.
Yeah, that works now.
All right, I don't know, maybe because I changed the size, but okay. That's fine, you can overlap a little bit. Max, you're up with Dr. Rizal there in the corner looking over the thing. Oni, you exit and you see Dr. Rizal and Max, over here at this section at a console. Harm has gone to the left. What does Oni do?
I'm going to follow the Marine.
Okay.
Yes. Trying to remember names. Sorry.
Harm.
Yes. I'm going to sort of just be your shadow.
Okay. And Eric Collins, everyone has left the ship. You're in the pilot seat, so maybe that's why you exit last. You see Dr. Rizal and Max at a console over here. Harm and Oni kind of take a left. What does Eric Collins do?
Eric is going to look at the schematic on whatever mini map thing he's got, and he's going to try to figure out where the most likely, where the origin of whatever power stealing device is, just based on his technical ship layout knowledge.
Well, he knows that these sections here are engineering.
Okay.
The turbine is back here. and all engineering space, all the big mechanical bits are in that space. Aft of on this deck is engineering. The other deck is habitation. Med bay is here, and so to orient you, main cargo hold. This is the science lab. This is cryo, and then engineering spaces are in the back. On the second level, which is above you, really is the galley is right here. Habitation, obviously, with beds on these sections. This is the med bay on the second level with advanced medications, and then captain's quarters, archaeologist quarters, that sort of thing. This section right here is really the pilot house and life support right aft of the pilot house. These lines are conduits, like crawl spaces, connect those areas through this little hatch right here, and that's what you have on the map, at least per Mr. Tim's explanation. And so Eric Collins would know that these are aft. He's not certain if it would come from the science lab or if it would come maybe from engineering, but everything on the second deck, aside from med bay and life support, is less likely.
Eric, looking down at his map, says we should probably check the most likely places for origins of our power disruption. Harm, can you take lead and bring us into the science quarters, the research quarters?
Okay.
Where are the crew? Where's the crew?
Good question.
Maybe we should check the cryotubes.
So first, describe what Dr. Rizal and Max find. Dr. Rizal, you try to get the panel. The panel is working, but you cannot get ship control. AI seems to be offline. There's not even a cursor. You go through subsystems, and maybe even shout up, for the AI up into the rafters, and you don't get any response. Oni, Harm, and Eric Collins, these are kind of metal doors leading to these spaces here. On the map, really, this is a lower life support, and this is crew chief's quarters here and science lab. This has a airlock, and unlike the airlock on the other side, it isn't welded shut.
So I'm going to, if I may, go into the room that I'm beside right now and see if the crew chief, if there's anything there that I can rummage through to try to figure out what happened to the crew.
So Oni goes into the
Yes.
into the crew chief's quarters. Captain Harm, are you following Eric Collins's suggestion to enter the science lab?
I'm gonna. Sorry about the dogs. I'm gonna quickly pop my head in and do a scan of the room Oni is going in. Just be like, once you're done, follow us to the other direction.
So Oni and Harm are going into the crew chief's chambers. Eric Collins.
I'm just gonna push forward into the research area.
The science lab. Okay.
Yeah,
And how
science
about Dr. Rizal and Max?
Yeah, Dr. Rizal will follow Eric Collins into the science lab.
Okay. Max?
Max is gonna poke his head into the cryo chamber.
All right. So I'm just gonna put you where you are. First, Harm and Oni, you open the crew chief's door. It's just a metal door, pretty sturdy, as would be expected for a ship. You open the door, and the first thing you see is the dead crew chief slump back in his chair, Now, you really just see the top of him and the bottom part of his rib cage and a little bit of pink squishy lung hanging out the bottom, because the center of him between his bottom rib cage and his pelvis has been eaten all the way down to his spinal cord, and you only see the ligaments. His head is rocked back, but his eyes are wide open. He's got fisted hands that are closed. There's a giant like hatch or like air conduit in the crew chief's quarters, and a locker probably on the far side where there's next to the bed. What does Harm and Oni do?
Are the wounds on crew chief, are they explosive wounds? Are they something was chewing on him? Are there footprints leading away from him? Bloody footprints?
Yeah, no bloody footprints. In fact, there's no blood at all in the space, Oni. It's dry. Whatever took out the center part of his body, took everything out. Kidneys, you're trained in field medicine and surgery. You look in there, you see no organs from the liver, from the bottom part of his lungs to the bony pelvis, not even his bladder. All sections between that area have been taken out. You see ragged edges on the side of his abdomen. Perhaps make a surgery roll. And
I
see if
shall.
you learn anything else. Captain Harm, as Oni is inspecting the body, what do? You look over his shoulder and see that there.
I'll just kind of look in disbelief, but at the same time, like, not, like, because he hasn't seen it before, but since he has seen, like, battle and stuff, he's probably not going to be too surprised at the fact that he's seeing a dead body.
Sure.
But he's gonna kind of have a morbid interest of, like, okay, he's missing his ribs and half of his organs.
Oni, Captain Harm's looking over your shoulder, keenly interested in the crew chief slung back in his chair. You're 100% positive that whatever happened to the crew chief, his insides were eaten out. You inspect the
Whatever
edges.
happened to him, he died.
Right. You see these long slashes that go down the side and almost like small serrated grooves, as if something scooped out his innards. And I would have Oni make a fear test.
Quick out of game question. I noticed when I made my surgery check, it came out as strength plus surgery. That's normal?
No, what you should have done is when you roll surgery, you can pick you should have picked intellect. And so if you can select a stat. So like if you go in right now to roll your fear check, you're going to see like you can check a skill. And so that would help with that fear check. For you, I would pick surgery. You're used to this stuff, and so maybe it would help your fear check.
Okay. So it defaulted to strength then,
Right.
Because I didn't check anything. Okay.
Right. Yeah, defaulted.
So I'm going to fear. Oh, fear. Okay. And choose surgery and normal. Uh-oh.
Why does this bother you, Oni?
Because he believes it's some kind of xenomorph.
Yeah. Scooped out his innards, the softest part, the most delicious part, tripe for an alien. The liver too, full of iron and nutrients. Left everything else. The lungs, they're just squishy air, but scooped out the center as you're looking at it. And you can see that it looks like it was scooped right out of the center of him. But there's no blood anywhere. It also doesn't look like the crew chief fought back as you're in there. Eric Collins and Dr. Rizal, as Oni and Captain Harmer in the crew chiefs, you enter the science lab. The airlock is slightly ajar, and you pull the airlock there. That's what this door is, an airlock. And you see that the airlock is a bit dented and gouged, like something took a scraping off the outer of the airlock. Inside, there's computers and equipment that are just in disarray. They're smashed and strewn about the room, and they're commingled with 3 corpses of bodies. And there's a vent right here, a big square vent that looks like it's smashed outward into the room. What does Eric Collins do?
He terrified. One, he's absolutely gobsmacked. Staring like open mouthed. Eric just gonna say nothing and begin to try to like detach from what he's seeing and focus on the goal.
Okay.
I don't know how successful he is in that. He looks around for anything that could be siphoning energy, but probably sees the corpses. So, yeah, what do the bodies look like?
Their insides have been scooped out, Eric Collins. They're laying there with their bottom rib cage showing and their pink lungs, but there's nothing between their pelvis and their rib cage. You can see the bottom of the ribs and the cartilaginous connections of the floating ribs, 11, 10, 11, 12. You probably don't know those numbers. You're an engineer. You work on engines and complicated machinery. And even though the body is complicated machinery, all the machinery you know in the center of that body has been taken out. There's no blood anywhere. Their eyes are open. They're still wearing partial clothes on the top half and pants and boots. And they're commingled with all these computer wiring and broken stations. There's no power besides the lights. And that's what you see. Dr. Rizal, you see Eric Collins come in and he's looking at the bodies. Perhaps there is something in his eyes, but we'll see what he does when he rolls his fear check. What does Dr. Rizal do?
As soon as he sees what he sees, he's immediately piqued in curiosity. Fascinating. And he would kind of move to the bodies and take out his his sample collection kit.
Okay.
And try to make sense of what kind of alien we're dealing with, being, and possibly try to identify what we can do about it.
Okay. What I would have you do is roll exobiology. You don't have to roll fear. You have zoology, pathology, exobiology, and military training. Like this is, and you have a sample kit. Like this is bread and butter to you. You're like, ooh, flesh. And so it doesn't faze you one bit as you walk past Eric Collins and kneel down at the body and take a sample. So roll exobiology. Eric Collins, roll a fear check.
I was just going to say, would he get advantage because his compatriot is not fearful?
No, I don't think so. I think Dr. Rizal brushes past him.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think I'd pay him any mind.
Eric Collins comes to a standstill looking at these bodies, and Eric and Dr. Rizal just, walks right past them like it's, part of every day.
Can I pitch for an advantage roll?
I give you an advantage roll. All your skills like overlap. Okay.
You're made for this moment.
Yeah, this is my moment.
Dr. Rizal, as you're there inspecting the bodies, you can tell that whatever scooped out isn't the only thing. First, something large, giant, scooped out the insides, and then something else fed off the remains of whatever was left. There's smaller marks, smaller stabbing marks. It looks like not necessarily teeth, but also tearing and scraping. But there's more than one thing that fed off this body. First, the bodies were killed by something really big, and they didn't give any fight in it. They didn't contest their ultimate death, and something large scooped out the center, and then smaller things fed off the remains of the bodies. That's what he can see.
So, this is how I imagine like Dr. Rizal kind of like, with that vial and kind of shaking it and looking at that. And he'll look over to Eric Collins with, the whites in his eyes, and he's like, clearly disturbed about it. And he would calmly explain to his horror what it probably like, in like a National Geographic fashion of like, you see this right here? This appears to be where some animal or creature like ate it from the inside, and it's very clear that there is a much larger animal here that is probably attacking these scientists or people. Fascinating. What did you say, Eric Collins?
No, that's not the words I would use. I don't see anything in here that could be draining the ship. You said there's a bigger thing. Do you think it's big enough to break that vent? Point over to the busted in vent.
Obviously so.
Dr. Rizal, whatever crashed through that vent or bent that vent was much smaller than the thing that scooped out the insides.
So I tell him, I think we're thinking about something much larger than that vent.
How long have they been dead? Can you tell me that?
Can I tell?
You get a distinct feeling that they should be dead longer than they are. Because when you examine them, there's no rigor mortis, there's no blood layering, livido reticularis. They're supple, like they feel supple. They feel newly dead, like an hour ago, but you know that this isn't true. Like you could see the lower part of the descending aorta is clotted off, and they should be rigid, but they're not. They're not liquefying. They're maintained in some fashion. Max, you round the corner going to cryo, and the first thing you see is bodies. There's 3 on one side, head to toe, facing aft, and there's 3 on the other side, toe to head, facing forward. What does Max do as he turns the corner and sees them lined up on one side and the other side? He also sees a airlock door right here that's been welded shut. Fine little beads of weld around the door itself.
Max is going to see that and immediately turn around. He is going to immediately turn around and find the rest of the group.
Max, you turn around, and Mother has been gone for quite some time, and you hear her say, "It comes. I need you to make a body save."
Well, I think we all know how this is going to go.
You turn around to return to the group, and you feel the pulse again. And you shut down, your legs go limp, and you crash face first onto the ground. at the same time, although they don't recognize it, as you completely become comatose and discombobulated and hit the ground because whatever pulses through the ship, Eric Collins, Dr. Rizal, Oni, and Harm, and especially Dr. Rizal, because I see you still there, like collecting sample. You suddenly see the eyes of those dead people, the crew chief and the three, start to move as if they're in stage 4 sleep and having a dream, and they're trying to find something under, and their fingers start to quiver like this. And you hear this shriek emanate throughout the whole ship. It echoes through that broken conduit here on the ship, and through the hatch here, and through the hatch here, and down the hallways. You can't tell from where it is. It echoes throughout the whole ship, and the eyes are still fluttering. They flutter for like 2-3 minutes. Their fingers are kind of jiggling, and they got little spasms in their muscles, almost like they're trying to sit up, and their heads shake a little bit, but their eyes don't completely open. And you hear this high-pitched rolling scream, shriek throughout there, and then silence, and then you hear jittering like something on steel, and we'll end it there for today.
I was going. There was a lot of activity. Other players speaking about things. Before this happens, I was going to ask whether I could look at the crew chief if he had a magnetic or proximity access badge that I might be able to take off.
Oh yeah, I think you. The crew chief would have access badge, like a swipe card.
Yes.
For access to spaces that only a crew chief would have access to on a science ship. That's reasonable. Would only look for anything else.
I don't know. Actually, it's not his forte, but schematics, logs.
I think as you're reaching for that tag that's on like a lanyard, that's when their eyes start to move, and they start to move, and you probably draw back a little bit as you take it off.
Did I do that?
Well, hopefully everyone had fun. Sometimes the sessions are a little bit different when you're integrating new people and trying to figure out how to do that. I still had a lot of fun. Any questions for me?
Where's the artifact? I need to know so I can grab it. Get these under my control.
It's
load
back
them up onto the ship.
It's back on the other ship. You left it in. You left it there, but you're unconscious at the moment on the floor.
My rolls
None
were
of
not
us
good.
know.
My rolls were not good. I don't know what is. Were the dice loaded? Like, what's going on?
You gotta hit under a 19, 18 and under out of 100. This is rough.
It's tough.
I did like how you all played. Integrating new characters and going back and forth. You all did a great job, which helps me a lot. And we filled a lot of that space with RP and figuring out what the heck is going on.